Welcome back. Today we're going to tackle a huge problem: how to bridge that massive gap between a brilliant strategy and actually getting it done. We'll break down why so many amazing plans fall flat and give you a framework to make sure yours actually deliver.
You know the feeling, right? You've been in that meeting, the strategic plan is fantastic, the vision for the future is crystal clear, but then, somewhere along the line, it just fizzles out. It's a super common and honestly a deeply frustrating experience. So why does this keep happening? Well, the answer is usually hiding in that gap between the boardroom's ambition and the front line's actions.
And that brings us right to the heart of the conflict, this tension between ambition and action. It's that messy middle ground where great ideas run headfirst into the complicated reality of day-to-day work.
Okay, so let's get right to the core of it. Setting targets, defining your key performance indicators, your KPIs, that's the easy part. That's just half the battle. The real test, the hard part, is making sure every single task, every project, and every little activity happening on the ground is perfectly lined up to actually push those KPIs in the right direction. Without a bridge to connect the two, all that ambition, it's just an idea sitting on a piece of paper.
So, how do we build that bridge? The answer is to stop thinking about your projects as just a simple list and start treating them as a highly disciplined portfolio.
Now, this is a really crucial point. A transformation portfolio is not just a folder full of projects. No, it's a disciplined control system. Think of it like an engine. It takes in your strategy as fuel, translates that fuel into funded, organized work, and then, and this is key, it makes sure that work actually produces the measurable outcomes you need. It is the absolute essential link between the ambition of your strategy and the reality of getting things done.
For an engine like that to work smoothly, it needs structure. You can't manage all that complexity without organization. And that's exactly why we need a super clear delivery hierarchy.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Hierarchy sounds like bureaucracy. But this isn't about adding red tape. It's all about creating clarity. A strict, logical hierarchy makes sure that everyone knows exactly what they're responsible for and, just as important, how their piece of the puzzle fits into the bigger picture. It's the foundation for real accountability.
Okay, let's break this down, because this is where it all connects. At the very top, you've got the L0 portfolio. This is the executive level, where they set the big investment themes and focus on those high-level strategic KPIs. That gets broken down into L1 programs, which are just groups of related work. Then we get to L2 initiatives. You can think of these as your classic projects, like launch a new customer portal. And finally, you get all the way down to the L3 level, the concrete deliverables. These are the actual things that get produced. You see how each level has a clear owner and a specific KPI focus? This is how you create a direct line of sight from the highest level strategy all the way down to what a specific team is working on today.
And inside that hierarchy, this concept right here is king, the master deliverable. For every single initiative, there has to be one and only one non-negotiable output that will directly move a number. Everything else, I'm talking training manuals, pilot tests, all those communication plans, all of that stuff only exists to support the successful delivery of that one critical thing.
Now, having this structure is one thing, but making it actually work, that requires a pretty massive cultural shift. It means moving away from gut feelings and office politics and running toward data-driven decisions. I mean, does this sound familiar? We've all seen it happen. So often, budgets get allocated not based on real strategic value, but on who makes the most passionate case in a meeting or who just happens to have the most influence. This approach is frankly a recipe for wasted money and strategic failure.
This slide just lays out the choice so perfectly. On the left, you've got the old political way, where everyone's just focused on finishing projects. But on the right, you have the architected way. In this world, funding is based on provable KPI impact. Success isn't just about shipping something. It's about delivering that one specific master deliverable that is guaranteed to change the numbers. It's completely different and way more powerful way of thinking about value.
And if you remember just one thing from our conversation today, please let it be this. This is the single most important mindset shift you can make. Are you celebrating activity or are you celebrating outcomes? True success isn't about checking a box that says project complete. It's about looking at a KPI and seeing that you measurably, demonstrably made a real difference.
So, you've got the right structure, you've adopted the right mindset. How do you actually manage this whole system day to day? Let's dig into the practical disciplines you need to make sure you're always focused on creating real value. This is where a discipline called Strategic Portfolio Management, or SPM, comes into play. And look, this isn't just about tracking projects on a spreadsheet. It's your #1 tool for managing investment risk. Because think about it. Every dollar you spend on work that isn't explicitly linked to a strategic KPI is a wasted investment. SPM gives you value assurance. It makes sure you're putting your money on the right things to get the right outcomes.
And here are the tools in the toolkit. First, you prioritize work based on its calculated value, no more guesswork. Second, you visually map out your timeline so you can actually see if you're on track to hit your targets. Third, you use simple things like heat map dashboards to see project health and strategic importance in a single glance. And finally, you set up a strict, regular rhythm of reviews to catch and manage risks before they blow up. These 4 disciplines are what make the whole system practical and incredibly powerful.
Okay, let's bring it all home. What are the absolutely crucial points to remember from this entire framework? Let's boil it all down.
Here are the 4 big pillars. First, remember your portfolio isn't a list, it's the control system that connects your big ideas to real work. Second, that 4-level hierarchy is your best friend for creating clarity and accountability. Third, and this is a big one, always identify that single master deliverable that will change a KPI. And finally, you have to let data, not politics, drive every single funding decision.
And that leaves us with one final, and maybe a little challenging question to think about. I want you to consider the projects you're working on right now. Are you and your team just focused on getting them done? Or can you draw a straight, unbroken line from your daily tasks all the way up to a master deliverable that will genuinely change the numbers and deliver real, measurable value? Because that answer, that makes all the difference.